Today, I'm going to talk about the foods that you can eat to decrease your stress hormones. The food we eat actually impacts the way our body responds to stress. Specifically, it impacts the level of cortisol that we have running throughout our body. Cortisol is a stress hormone, and it often gets a bad name because people immediately think that cortisol is bad. But in small doses, cortisol is actually highly beneficial. It triggers our fight or flight responses so that we can escape danger when we need it. And it also plays a role in regulating our sleep cycles, the inflammation throughout our body, and our blood sugar levels. One of the problems with cortisol is when we have too much of it too often. This creates low-level inflammation throughout the body. And research shows that high cortisol levels can actually lead to depression, anxiety, heart disease, autoimmune disorders, chronic fatigue, and diabetes. So obviously, we want to begin to pay attention to our cortisol levels and be conscious about keeping them as low as possible. I'm talking about nutrition today because it's one of the things that most of us can have control over. So many different things impact our cortisol levels. Economic issues, a stressful job, a fight with a partner, and many of these things are out of our control. But our nutrition is something that most of us can start to pay attention to so that we can support our body when we're experiencing stress. So let's talk about 3 foods that you can eat that help lower cortisol. One of the foods that helps lower cortisol is foods that are high in B vitamins. B vitamins help metabolize cortisol or simply remove it from our body. Vitamin B levels are extremely important for mental and emotional health. They play a key role in the health of our nervous system, and research even shows that over 70% of people are deficient in B vitamins. So, foods that are high in B vitamins include eggs, shellfish, beef, lamb, salmon, and organ meats. So if you're feeling exhausted, moody, or irritable, make sure to check your vitamin B levels and start to bring as many of these foods into your diet as possible. Other foods that help decrease stress are ones that are high in magnesium. Magnesium plays a key role in regulating our neurotransmitters, in improving our sleep cycles, and in reducing muscle tension. We actually lose magnesium through our urine, especially when we're stressed. And when our magnesium levels are too low, it actually increases our cortisol levels. So we want to make sure that we're getting enough magnesium-rich foods on a regular basis, and especially when we're experiencing stressful events. Foods that are high in magnesium are dark chocolate, spinach, bananas, pumpkin seeds, Brazil nuts, and yogurt. The third type of food that can help decrease our stress levels are ones that are high in omega-3s. Omegas play a massive role in lowering inflammation and cortisol in our bodies. They're also key in our brain health and our brain functioning. Foods that are high in omega-3s are tuna, salmon, mackerel, avocado, olive oil, anchovies, sardines, and walnuts. Now, while you're incorporating these foods into your diet, you want to make sure that you're drinking plenty of water. A lot of us are chronically dehydrated and we don't even know it. So making sure that you're drinking water, even when you're not necessarily thirsty, can be really helpful. Water is necessary for all of our body's functions. And when we're dehydrated, research even shows that our body releases more cortisol. So start to bring a water bottle with you. Make sure you're drinking it throughout the day. And as we're focusing on adding more of these foods into our diet, we also want to avoid 3 things to help lower our stress levels. The first thing that we want to avoid is alcohol. Alcohol is a toxin and it stresses our body. When we drink it, cortisol is released. It specifically lowers magnesium levels as well. So if you're going to be drinking alcohol, make sure that you're also eating a lot of magnesium-rich foods. The second thing that we want to avoid are energy drinks and coffee. Caffeine increases the production of cortisol. So you'll want to limit how much caffeine you're drinking or even remove it completely if your cortisol levels are really high. Caffeine also disrupts our circadian rhythm, impacting our sleep. So make sure that you stop drinking it early enough so that your body has enough time to metabolize it or clear it out by the time you want to go to sleep at night. The third type of food that you want to avoid to decrease your stress levels are processed foods. Processed foods are artificial foods that our body doesn't even recognize. We've evolved to eat natural foods that don't have artificial dyes or flavors in them. And when we eat highly processed foods, cortisol is released because our body doesn't recognize these foods and has to work even harder then to metabolize or to break them down. So you'll want to limit as many processed foods as possible by becoming more aware of ingredient lists in the foods that you're eating, especially those that you're eating on a regular basis. I hope this is helpful, and I want to remind you all that if you stick to these commitments, you'll start to feel better mentally and emotionally, and you'll start to be able to deal with stress better. Because when we support our body with proper nutrition, we're so much better able to handle stress and to process our difficult emotions. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What is one nutritional commitment that you can make to yourself? Leave it down below.